Having trouble taking down the next big boss, either by yourself or with a party? Feeling like either you or your class is just a bit too weak and can't make it any further? Or are you just looking to make things quicker, being able to speed up your bossing and in turn your grinding, but you can't get to that next level of gear that would allow you to do so? This video might be able to help a bit. Starting off from one a lot of people tend to forget, familiars. From the get-go at common rank, you can get some that give flat stats and flat attack, but also ones that give ignore enemy defense. While these aren't particularly too great for grinding, they help a fair bit while bossing. At Epic and Unique, you can get some seriously useful lines like % boss and % attack and damage lines, bigger % IED lines, etc. Getting more familiar slots would also help a good bit, which you can acquire by getting 1 badge for 2 familiars, and then 10 badges for a maximum of 3 familiars. Early on, it's a bit tricky for most people to get that 3rd slot, especially boss mules and such, but some easier ones anyone can get really fast if you need just any quick one. Starter badge, since it's just the snails and the basic spore enemies. Farming the basic snail is a little tough since they only spawn in one small section of one map. Explorers might be able to farm more at Maple Island. I genuinely couldn't tell if they drop familiar cards there or not though. Oppressor badge is hands down the easiest one to get since it's only 3 enemies in Edelstein, each with their own maps. It also dually uses these cards for the Rebel badge, which has a bit more familiars but each with their own maps as well. And then there's the Snowflake badge, much like the starter badge. This has Murus in one map with super low spawn rate, but it only needs 5 familiars, with all the other cards in the badge having fairly dense maps. Later on, all the areas from Morass onward up to Limina all have badges that you'll pretty quickly get from just doing dailies, or maybe farm a card or 2 you're missing. But from these alone, that's another 5 badges. Counting the previous ones, that's 9 easier ones already. For the last to get 10 badges, Mineral badge from Vern Mine enemies, or the Lion badge would be my suggestion. Lion has way less cards, but if you don't have a Hyper Teleport Rock, it requires you to do the questline. Also, these badges can give stats. It's nothing huge, but a tiny little bit, so I'll mention that since it's right there. This one is an obvious one to me, and I touched on it briefly in my bossing tips and tricks video, but I'll go over it again. Buffs. Legion buff in the Legion coin shop, weekly guild map-wide blessings, and Monster Park red and blue pots all give 30 attack and magic attack. Red pot only gives weapon attack, blue pot only gives magic attack. Also, the Ursus shop gives a map-wide attack buff that's pretty much identical to the guild one, and it stacks with it. Right there, all those combined, that's 120 extra attack total. While it's here, I'll also mention quickly getting green pot for the extra attack speed, which is good on nearly every class in the entire game. Check your class just in case. And also, if your guild does Culver and Flag and weekly missions, you can get some big buffs up to 30 minutes with a 1 hour cooldown that at max level give 30% boss, 30% IED, 30% crit damage, and 30% damage respectively. All of these are useful in bossing, but damage and crit damage are also useful for grinding. Some bosses used to give buffs after defeating them like Horntail and Pink Bean, but at some point these were pulled from the game. One still remains and it's pretty well hidden. After defeating Princess Snow, stand on this platform and jump up. You'll get a 40 attack buff. This could be removed from the game at some point in the future, but while it's around, use it as much as you can, why not? If you do the questline and eventually unlock it, per character I might mention, Threads of Fate gives an atmospheric 20 attack buff for an hour once a day, once you unlock his summon. This one takes a bit of time to get. If you play around with it enough, the Housing Caretaker can also give you various buffs once a day, though even at max level, these aren't too big. I just like mentioning housing anytime I get the chance to. Also, every day on every character, you get a fame. If you fame someone in a 250 or 275 chair, usually stationed en masse at Zachem, you can get a 30-minute attack buff. The 250 chair gives one for 40 attack, and the 275 chair gives one for 50 attack. Sparkling white and red potions give % IED and boss respectively, and you can also craft your own IED, attack, and boss buff potions through alchemy at Master and Meister ranks, which is a bit of a grind, but it's still an option. Lastly, more so a pay-to-win option since it requires you spending money of at least $10 of NX in your account's entire lifetime, but it's there every 10 or so days. The MVP rewards give 230 attack buffs. Don't spend money just to get this option, but if you already bought NX in the past, you most likely already have this permanently unlocked, and that's just free stats. Some classes give some big buffs that last a fair chunk of time and even persist when they're not in your party after they cast them. There's a lot of party buffs, so I'll go over the ones that are most worth it in my opinion. Beast Tamer's Gold card, which gives 40% damage and attack speed, and lasts 3 minutes. Also some percent health, which is helpful for things like Demon Avenger, whose main stat is increased with health. Kana's Domain, which gives attack speed and a big boost to final damage for the whole party. This is commonly used right before bosses, and at max level gives way more final damage and it lasts way longer. Wild Hunter's Call of the Wild buff gives 10% attack for 5 minutes. I believe it lasts longer the more buff duration you have too, so having a buff duration inner ability could be pretty good for parties. Lastly, I believe all classes get this one, Echo of Hero. It changes its name depending on your class and your Maple race, but for all of them it gives 4% attack for 40 minutes, with a 2-hour cooldown for everyone nearby, even if they aren't in your party. Bucks Timely resets the cooldown of this. Some classes get some pretty nice passives and skills in their beginner tab, but everybody shares the Blessing of the Fairy and Empress Blessing passives. These give a flat 20 attack for Fairy, or a flat 30 attack for Empress. This goes up per character's levels with every 10 levels for all classes except Cygnus Knights, which goes up every 5 levels instead. The higher level one will be applied to all characters in your world, so making any Cygnus Knight and getting them up to 150 should get you this maxed out. Free 30 attack for all your characters, bam. Easy, free, nice. I love mentioning this and I'll take every opportunity to say it. Will of the Alliance passive. 5 all stats, 5 attack, get it at level 75, takes little to no time for free permanent gains. While we're over on this tab, I'll talk about Link skills. These vary in usefulness and what they do, but some give good boosts to damage, like Demon Avenger, Kali, and Kana's. Some also give crit rate, Kinesis gives a little bit of crit damage, Demon Slayer gives boss damage, Lumi gives IED, all the Cygnus Knights ones stack to give one that gives 25 flat attack. There's a lot. I'd focus on at least the damage ones if you're looking to be stronger. If you wanted to get more characters up a bit quicker, the XP ones will help more in the long run. On that note, Legion gives major increases per class too, with things like flat stat blocks, boss damage, crit damage, and IED. The grid bonuses are the main deal here though, honestly. The initial smaller grid only gives flat stats, but once you expand it, you get a lot more. Extra normal enemy damage, crit rate, crit damage, IED, boss damage, and buff duration. You'll have to set it up per class or at least per class type, like warrior, mage, thief, etc. But these grid bonuses make some classes so much comfier to do anything on. Like all the extra crit rate for classes like Hero and Hayato, who historically have very low crit rates across the board. And now, hyperstats. The big ones here worth mentioning are the flat stat increases, damage, IED, crit damage, boss damage, normal monster damage, flat attack, and arcane force. If you're having issues with reaching arcane power requirements in certain grinding maps or arcane river bosses, pumping some stats into Arcane Force could help a fair bit, especially if you just arrived at 5th job and you have some trouble with even the first Vanishing Journey maps. Set up different presets, at least 2, for grinding and bossing. Damage and crit damage is good for both, Arcane Force is pretty situational, but it has its uses for both, and flat attack in your class's stats if you have a couple extra points lying around after dumping your points. Crit rate is nice too if you're not 100% yet, but you get way more out of investing through Links and Legion for crit rate. For bossing, you'll want damage, boss damage, crit damage, and IED to get as close to 100% IED as you can get. It's always useful for bossing. Don't rack your brain over it too much, but as long as you aim for like 85 to 90% or higher, you're golden for most bosses in the entire game. Again, throwing extra points at flat attack and flat stats is worth it when you have a little extra points to spend. I'll also mention these hyperstat levels cap at 10 pre-5th job, but at 5th, these go up to level 15. They cost a whole lot more points per level though, so I wouldn't heavily invest into getting these past level 10 until you're higher leveled and you have more expendable points. Traits I'll quickly mention because not only can you unlock Pocket Slot from level 30 Charm, but you also get things like IED from Ambition, buff duration from Empathy, and ignore elemental resistance from Insight. The Insight one doesn't sound too major, but it's arguably the best one to invest into for extra damage. I believe every class has elemental damage, and putting points into this just bumps up your damage for everything, both bosses and normal enemies alike. Leveling up your Arcane Symbols helps a lot too. With the recent change to all the weekly minigames per area giving 45 symbols every week, it's very low effort just jumping in and doing them for some quick progression. Doing the Arcane River dailies is also good for some extra symbol progress as well, as a nice little chunk of XP from the mobs you fight, and handing in the dailies. Don't forget to do these. For the last way to boost yourself up that I can currently think of, V-Matrix. You gotta be 5th job for this, but you can get some ridiculous gains not only from the skills and tri-nodes, but also random nodes that give you passive stats and attack too. The big shared nodes across all classes would be Combat Orders, Sharp Eyes, Speed Infusion, and whichever Goddess Blessing you have. For the smaller passive stats, Blink gives flat attack, Speed Infusion, Sharp Eyes, and Rope Lift all give flat stats, etc. Will's node skill you get from completing Esfera and level up through fighting hard mode Will, True Arachnid Reflection is its name, is a really good initial burst of damage, and it doubles as a little damage over time field. It has a 4-minute and 10-second cooldown, but it's a pretty good option if you get more free node slots and you don't know what to put into them. There's also shared nodes per race and per class type, which have a ton of variations, so I'll just list some major ones shared between just the class types. Mana Overload for mages, which boosts final damage for all your skills at the cost of extra mana per cast, or costing health for non-mana mages like Kinesis and Kana. Weapon Aura for warriors summons a little aura wave thingy every 5 seconds with your main attacking skills. For archers, they have 2. First being Vicious Shot, which increases your crit rate cap past 100% and boosts crit damage depending on how much total crit rate you have. The second, Guided Arrow, summons one toggleable arrow that flies around at enemies when you attack. If you've ever seen Guardians of the Galaxy, it's pretty much Yondu's arrow. Pirates have Loaded Dice, which lets them select one guaranteed dice roll with their Roll the Dice skill, and Overdrive, which gives a big boost to attack power during the duration, and then reduces your attack for about 15% while it's on cooldown. Really good burst skill. Lastly, Thieves have Last Resort, which is another good burst skill. It reduces your avoidability and increases damage taken, but it gives a massive final damage boost per stage. Stage 1 lasts 30 seconds, and clicking the skill again activates Stage 2, which has the remaining duration, but it over doubles the final damage given. It also reduces avoidability by 90%, and it increases your damage taken by 40%. Clicking it again cancels the skill, and you can use the toggle of the skill to go instantly to Stage 2 with only one button press. One final mention I'll make is to the Epic Adventure hyper skills, which not every class gets, but it gives a little bit extra damage for a minute with a 2-minute cooldown. It's up every other minute, and it gives 10% damage while also applying to other shared classes in the party, like Explorers, Cygnus, Resistance, Heroes, etc. Also, learning boss mechanics can increase your damage a bit, like in the case of Guardian Angel Slime. If you do the test phase correctly, when they come back, they're stunned and take full damage for a few seconds. Same with Gloom every minute or so, opening his eye and allowing you to do full damage while there's a big old path up to his eye that he makes with his tentacles. I'm more than likely forgetting some other ways to boost your damage without focusing on gear, but these are the biggest ones that came to mind for me. One that I know I didn't mention since it's a bit seasonal is certain events that give you passive stats throughout the whole event, or things like frequent buffs when you do certain quests, or show up to the event map at specific times. I just wanted to bring to light the ones that are always, or seemingly always, gonna be around at all times of the year. So hopefully this video helped in any way. As always, thank you for watching up to this long, and if you have any ideas for future videos you'd like to see from me, let me know down in the comments. As I see all of the comments, I read them all, I respond to them if there's questions, and y'all have given me a ton of good video ideas already, thank you for that. For now, I'll still stick with my theme of doing guides for classes I understand fairly well. That's all.